country.
Yeah, but Joe got his.
Yeah, but I mean, it's by the entire country, so when you set yours in, probably 5,000 people went in, you didn't go in. Yeah, so you're getting it, so they're working on it, so that's a good sign.
Yeah, it's a good sign for people who got it.
Right, okay. She's wrong. Right.
And I had no hands.
Yeah, but they're in,
But then I put
right, right, I was gonna say, so at 4 o'clock, you can still walk. I was just gonna say, well, some people think at 5 o'clock they can't walk. They have another hour.
Yes. Well, we take my test and finish your Oh, I know. And I'm going to love every second step. I'm going to love for the last 2 years. Ready, set,
Joe, you have to initial it.
Well,
But
she's not,
I signed it.
she did the same thing, unless they spelled her name wrong. Legally changed. You have to-
Today's the 30th. Everybody put 29. You're all still sleeping.
That's what we have you for, Amanda. Good looking out.
Oh, so if you have the poll, and then your middle initial is N, and that's on your ID.
Are you serious?
I was, had nothing on your ID.
I'm going to leave it here so you can get up.
Where's my man? Huh? My man's not here.
Right, so.
And today you're out.
I was just thinking, I said, I could just read it, and that's what you do. I think you should go to the ART and ask them. Well, that's what you have to ask them. Well, then they're going to tell you what to do. Either reapply, or we'll fix it over the phone, or email, scan us something to show you.
South Carolina.
It's very legal, very serious.
I like the color.
You're going to be.
Have your shirt like the color, right? That's how that works. Yeah, sir.
You're going to be fine. Like I just said, I read it 2 years ago.
How'd you go last time? You study?
Yeah.
Did you review books?
No, I just did like, I went over all this once, and then I did some OSBs again, just to like.
Just showing that as you yes.
On this one. Right here, this is math. It's plus or minus 2%.
So any kind of distance,
On,
right? Kind of SID, kind of field of light. Okay. They're going to use the word linearity, and they're going to use the word reproducibility. So really, you got reproducibility, linearity, and the other one's going to be a distance related plus or minus 2. They're just regurgitation stats.
All right.
Or anything free in life.
I can tell you how to think outside the box, but
You did.
not really. I appreciate it.
Like your next week.
It's true. Like that person at Wawa who's just sucking up all the space in the
But the
counter.
Borehouse was good, right?
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, it was really good. I could go.
Food was good.
I can go for those burgers again.
Oh, do you like that?
Yeah.
Did you go get your ice thing?
Yeah. Yeah, it was good.
Fun, but I agree with you, just.
Yeah, it's ice and whatever that they do, like something else too. That's really bomb. It was like salty caramel or some shit.
Okay, guys, here we go. Come on. We're going to get behind if we don't. Okay, so where was I? Something about make sure you are you kind of stuff, right? They're getting strict about that. They'll treat you like a common criminal. Won't let you take the exam. Okay, now, as a couple recommendations, I'm not in the habit of giving grown folks recommendations. I think you can take care of your own business, but I will give you a couple along the way. Number one is, if you're a fast test taker, I suggest you continue. If you're a slow test taker, I suggest you continue. We say slow down, read each question carefully. The thing I'm going to then now say is I'm in direct conflict with my book. Everyone in this room knows how to take an exam, or your butt wouldn't be here now, would you? Think about that, guys. You guys have risen to the top. You wouldn't be here if you didn't know what you're doing. That's just how that goes. I need you to basically play by the testing rules you've always done. If you're faster, you're faster. If you're not, you're not. That's how life goes. A tiger doesn't change his stripes, and don't try to change who you are. Everyone is successful. Do not forget that, because your butt is sitting in front of me right now. The second thing is, if I were to read a question, and even before basically I look down and see the answers, there's going to be one question per computer monitor. It is going to be alphabet soup. It's patient care followed by procedures, followed by whatever they want to follow it by kind of stuff. You'll have a string of questions off an image, like they'll ask multiple questions off of an image kind of stuff. But ultimately, one question per computer monitor. If I read a question, even before I see the answer, something was in my head, I look down and I see the answer, that's my second piece of advice. Think long, think wrong. Would you please quit trying to outthink yourself on every freaking question? They are not trying to trick you on every single question. There's questions out there that the exam calls critical thinking. Yeah, common folks like us just call it tricky. You know it and I know it. They try to trick you. It's just no big secret here. But ultimately, they're not trying to trick you on every single question. Your first thought is going to be your best thought most often. Please quit trying to outthink yourself. I'm not saying don't go back and revisit questions. I'm not saying don't change an answer along the way. It's not what I'm saying. Quit trying to outthink yourself on every single question. Now, you have the ability to challenge every single question based on validity. If it works, I don't know, because they give you a tentative score kind of stuff. Talk about that quickly. You will see every single question. Nursing will time you out, will shut off if you mathematically do well enough, or if you don't. It just shuts off. No, you'll see all 220 in radiology. Okay, nobody's getting timed out at this point in time. You're gonna see every single question kind of stuff. So you read the question, nothing was in your head. Read the answers fully, still nothing. I suggest you go back and read the question one second time and the answers one second time. At that point in time, if I were you, I would attach a flag. Let's talk. The tutorial tells you basically that if you don't know the answer, you still must answer it in order to see the next question. But the ones that you had to answer that you didn't know, you're going to attach a flag to it. A flag means you're going to come back kind of stuff. Do you understand? Now, from my understanding is you can come back to any question you want to. Every single question can be revisited if you want to. But in particular, the flag ones we didn't know the answer to, or we didn't think we knew the answer to kind of stuff. So you can always come back to every single question. But you're going to have to answer it whether you know it or not, yet you're going to attach a flag to it. But that's right, why you read the tutorial. You don't just gloss over the tutorial. It tells you how to navigate the system kind of crap. So you read the question a second time, still didn't know the answer, I suggest you flag that question, move on. My man in the back room sitting down right now, he's bigger, stronger, faster, younger. He's going to beat me down in a fight. My only chance is to outscore him in a boxing match. Hit and move, hit and move, hit and move. My suggestion is that basically that you try to keep a nice steady pace in the process. You do not want to look up and you're on question number 33 and you have 17 minutes to go. That's going to be a bad day. Better dig up a sock somewhere with some money in it because you'll be taking it again kind of stuff. So ultimately, you got to manage your time, but you can't get bogged down in any one question. You have 220 questions that you have to answer in a 3.5 hour time period. In my memory, that's like 53 seconds a question. So you can't spend, you gotta look for little tricks like inverse square law problems, just multiply or divide by 4 when they double or cut the distance in half. That kind of crap can help you. Looking for little shortcut things like series and parallel circuits, just looking for, add them up or take half the lowest. That little crap helps, but you gotta manage your time. There's gonna be questions that basically reading the second word. I get all that. But they're going to challenge you, make no mistake, and the words are going to be totally different. They're going to basically jack words all up on your butt. Still look for key words, look for all that stuff as part of the process. If you read it a second time, wasn't there, I suggest you flag it and move on. I had a question on my exam. Yeah, I'm as old as dirt. What's your point? It can still apply to your exam kind of stuff. It says, which of the following is a true AP projection of the elbow? They showed me a lateral. They showed me the medial oblique. They showed me this. They showed me this. I'm like, what the freak? I got 2 APs. No. This is not a true AP because the forearm and humerus are not on the same plane. Now, that's not a hard question, but when I read it initially, I didn't get it like that. So sometimes when you revisit a question, sometimes we read it differently, our mind's in a different place, we can kind of get a different meaning when we come back. So don't try to get bogged down. Don't try to pull your hair out. I suggest you keep a nice, steady pace in the process kind of stuff. Just keep the flow going kind of stuff, okay? And at the end of the day, as you basically go through other questions, and don't go back and count how many you flag. What freaking does it matter? Because you're just wasting time. Okay, you got to go back and answer the questions regardless of whether you flagged it or not kind of crap. Just don't try to you got to stay in touch with what you're doing. You're with the monitor. You got to be focused. This is a testing center. People will be leaving behind you kind of stuff. Some places have headphones that you can request. Some places have earplugs that you can request because you got to stay focused on the computer. Your palms are going to be sweating. You're going to be nervous kind of crap. That's how life goes. I used to joke with my students, drink a glass of wine, not the whole bottle that day. You got to handle the nerves. That's just part of the process. Drink a glass of wine, not the bottle, okay? All right, so you got to handle the moment, and you can handle the moment. But the one thing I want to go back to is I don't give out false compliments. I see what I see. Again, Northeast, New Jersey, no one picks up information as quickly as you do. That's a great attribute. You need to play to your strengths. You guys are the quickest learners, and it's not even close as I see out there. You need to continue to use those strengths on the exam kind of stuff. You can do this, New Jersey. There's no doubt in my mind. You're as smart as you can be. You're so much smarter than we ever were. The test is harder than it was for me. I'll admit that on the front end. But you're smarter, so I guess it's all even now, isn't it? Okay? Guess that's how life goes. Okay? All right. Couple 3 stories real quick. That old school tech in that right ear. You young folks don't know technique. You haven't walked 6 miles one way, no shoes. Yeah, that tech. You don't know technique. They're right about that. We don't know technology, but you guys don't know technique like we did. That same tech in the other ear said, you're making a 53 on your mock. You'll be fine in the exam. Nope. You're going to flunk. And you heard it here first. You're going to flunk if you're not progressing on these mock examinations. Do you understand me? You heard it here first. If you're not progressing on these mock examinations, you will flunk. And you heard it here first. Young lady calls me. I kind of call my work the season kind of stuff. So I kind of wind down a little bit July and August kind of stuff. And so I specifically remember I was in my garage and I was catching up, cleaning the garage, that kind of stuff, because I'm gone a lot this time of year. And my phone rings and all I can hear is a voice on the other end, and a young lady is crying. And my first thought was, I didn't do it. It wasn't me, right? But she basically explains to me that she took the examination. She didn't pass, but she remembered exactly what was on the exam. And she took the examination a second time, and she knew she remembered everything that was on that exam. She had that memory. She just knew she was going to nail it this time. She took the examination a second time, and she did not pass. And she was distraught. She's like, I don't know what to say. It wasn't like the first one. Well, hello, girlfriend. You're not getting the same exam. You do realize they issue you an ID number, a registration number. And don't be silly enough to think that if you take it the first time, you're going to get the same questions the second time. Now, how silly are you, girlfriend? That doesn't work like that. Talk to me, my man. You got classmates taking the exam right now, don't
Yeah,
you?
yeah.
And they're all getting
All
different versions, aren't they?
Yeah, crazy different.
Crazy different.
All physics or all positioning, opposite.
Crazy different. So you can't have any one preconceived notion about the exam. It's a little bit about everything that you have to prepare for. That's just how life goes. You understand what I just said? I wish that I could tell you exactly what exam you're going to get and what questions. Because if I knew that, I wouldn't be my butt here right now. I'd be on my island playing today, out in the water somewhere. Because I'd be a rich man over that kind of stuff. So you can't predict the questions. You got to deal with what you got to deal with kind of stuff. So she basically said, I don't know what to do. She said, I need your help. I said, I'm too busy, can't help you, girlfriend, still in my season. She said, I'll pay you. I said, you better have a lot of money to pay me. She said, I don't have that kind of money. And she said, I'll give you my first child. I said, we'll deal, right? I'll sell that kid for real money one day, kind of stuff. She said, what can I do? I said, I'm doing a seminar in University of Alabama, Tuscaloosa, Alabama, about 4.5 hours away from the house. And I said, you're more than welcome to go. She did. Want to report that she did take it a third time. After the seminar, she did pass. She did not make a great score. She passed with 77. So it was good on her, right? Not on me. She did the work. I just kind of showed her what she needed to concentrate on. It was good on her. Okay. And then finally, Young Love. As a tribute to my ladies who are about to walk down the aisle, everyone loves a Young Love story, right? Boyfriend, girlfriend from high school. Every single thing about this story is true, by the way. Boyfriend, girlfriend from high school. They loved each other so much, they decided to go to college together. They loved each other so much that they decided to choose the same major. They loved each other so much that they used to sit in the back of my class on a daily basis and hold hands and make out. That's how much they loved each other. And I didn't care. Like I care, right? They can make out all they want to in class. He loved her so much, he put a ring on it. That's how much he loved her. They did break up, by the way, but that's not the point of the story. Sorry, ladies. There's always hope, right? They took the examination on the exact same day, and they made the exact same score. They made one of my scores. I'm not a 99 guy, because I cut corners if I think I can get away with it. I pay percentiles on how much time you give this or that. They made an 89 apiece. But other than the breakup, that's where the story ends too. You see, she cried. She thought it was the hardest exam she'd ever seen in her life. And you see, he thought he cheated life. It was so easy. I mean, it's called a-holes and elbows now, isn't it? It's called an opinion, and everyone has one. What is hard for you may be easy for me and vice versa. You cannot take what someone says and think it's the end-all be-all. You can only experience it for yourself. You have to process information. You have to take it in. You have to basically experience life for yourself. So you're not going to know what you think until you get your eyes on that exam. So you can listen to people and you can take it in, but don't think it's going to be the end-all be-all, because what is hard for you is easy for me and vice versa. You got to experience it, folks. You got to live it for yourself, correct? So I don't know how you're going to interpret what basically happens on the examination. I do know that it's so much harder to predict a question, because what they can do is write a computer program that says out of a particular section, they're going to select every nth question. Well, so you randomly select every 7th question. You randomly select every 25th question. So that makes the variety so much more great than it ever was, kind of stuff. That's why I need you not to be a master of anything. I need you to be a jack of all trades. I need you to sample the buffet. I need you to know a little bit, but about everything. That's your best approach here. Okay? But your best approach is a process. Know a little bit, know enough to be dangerous. How about that? I need you to know enough to be dangerous. You don't have to be expert in anything. Just be dangerous. Okay, so questions, floor's open. About the exam, about anything. Okay, so your day is as follows. We're gonna knock out the radiation protection right now. We're gonna take us a break. We're gonna knock out the patient care. This all happens before lunch. We'll have procedures after lunch kind of stuff. That's where we roll. So lunch is gonna be 45 minutes. We'll try to make it as quick as we can kind of stuff. The days are a little bit different flow. Yesterday was long and hard. I was proud of the room. New Jersey stepped up as New Jersey always does. You're tough, hard-working people. It plays into the approach. You know, I don't know a lot about New Jersey, but I see what I see. And you guys, I don't mean any disrespect about this, but you guys just kind of remind me of a bunch of tough, kind of hard-working, kind of street smart kind of people. That's my take on New Jersey kind of stuff. That plays right into your strengths for the examination. You don't have to be the smartest person in the room. You have to be determined enough to get this done. Does that make any sense? The determination could carry the day, not necessarily how smart any one individual is. If you're determined, you'll do this. Okay? And that's what it comes down to. That's kind of inbred in New Jersey in my mind. So if you think I disrespected you, I don't know what to say. It wasn't meant to. It was just meant to say I got a take on people, and I basically have a take on everywhere that I travel. I got a take on you too. You're a bunch of hard, smart working. You're smart. You're hard working. Everything's planning to where you need to. Go finish the job, New Jersey. Go knock it out, okay? All right. And the last thing that you need to know is, if you pass the examination, what you do not know is I get 10% of your first check. And I got your credit card, I think, do I not? Isn't it in the system? Yeah, I think I do, don't I? So I appreciate that loan you're gonna give me, right? Just find your space. Come on, New Jersey, let's knock this crap out. D as in dog, D22. Get your pencil, get your highlighter, get ready to rock. D as in dog, D22. Pencil, highlighter, get ready to rock. D22. Okay, so if you ask a student what surprised you most about the examination, they will tell you to a person how the questions are worded. That's what they always say. So let me give you an example of what you're dealing with. Take a look on top of page D22, please. Number 3 says radio sensitivity. So listen to my question, please. First, second, third trimester, which trimester is the most sensitive? Well, that's easy. First, second, third trimester, which trimester is the least resistant?
Third.
Wow, good. See how smart you? Because generally you pause and that was quick, nice. See, if you're the most sensitive, you're the least resistant. Because you've seen the question written as most sensitive constantly, but then they'll just reword something. It's the same answer because it's the same question. I just chose different words. Good, well done. You see, so you got to watch how they word everything because they'll twist things constantly on the exam. Okay? All right, here we go. Highlight number 1, non-threshold. Highlight A, highlight B. Highlight number 2, threshold, and highlight A. Threshold says it takes a certain amount to produce a given effect. Non-threshold says no amount of radiation is safe regardless, there is no safe dose. Recognize definitions for starters of threshold, non-threshold. We'll parlay that into questions as well. At the bottom of the page, you see the word linear and curvilinear, and at the top of page 23, you see the word sigmoidal. Okay, so we're going to dumb this down for someone like myself. I am going to apply the KISS method. Can someone explain what that is to me, please? KISS method. Keep it simple, stupid. That's what it means. Okay, don't try to outthink yourself. We're going to look at 2 things to evaluate the dose-response relationship curves. We are going to see if the line is continually straight and where does it start. If it is continually straight throughout, we will call that one linear. Any curve anywhere, curvilinear, sigmoidal, I do not care. Let's call that one nonlinear. Okay? Let's just put it in a more water-soluble approach as opposed to gastrograph and gastroview. So is it straight and where does it start? Eyes on me, please, eyes on me. Y is your vertical, X is your horizontal axis. If it starts in the corner where X meets Y, right there, it is a non-threshold dose response. If it moves to the right on the horizontal, the X-axis, it is a threshold dose response. So I want you to take your hand and cover up the answer key on page 23. I want you to look at the chart and cover up the key. Look at the chart. I want you to look at the chart. So please tell me by number 1, 2, 3, 4, which number defines itself to be nonlinear threshold? Not 2. 3. Nonlinear, I agree, you should be looking at 2 and number 3. But when I said threshold, that eliminates number 2 because number 2 starts in the corner. Okay? Is it straight and where does it start? Number 1 and number 2 both start in the corner. Hence that makes them non-threshold. If they move to the right like 3 and 4 do, that's threshold. Is it straight and where does it start? Please tell me by number 1, 2, 3, 4, which number defines X-ray? Yeah, it is. X-ray is linear non-threshold. There is no safe dose. I want to remind you, you're not taking questions about microwaves. You're not baking cakes. You're answering questions about X-rays. X-ray is linear non-threshold in the question. X-ray is number 1. Okay. So there's just certain things that you know are going to show up on the examination. Let me run this down quickly. Guys, if you don't know every part of the Scotty Dog is going to be one of those that are going to make you drag and drop in the bucket. I'm not talking about the pedicles, the eye. I'm talking about every single part of the dog will have to be answered. The pedicles, the eye, the superiors, the ear, the pars articularis, the neck. I mean, every part of the dog has to be answered kind of stuff. You'll have to move over from one line, kind of drag and drop in the bucket kind of stuff. Internally versus externally rotated shoulders, you know it's going to be there. The anatomy of the carpal, some levers, trapezitions that they can't handle, the tarsals of the foot, it's always showing up kind of stuff. This is too, by the way, if you don't know that the law of Bergeret and Trippendale is going to show itself, then shame on you because you've been warned. All right, law of Bergeret and Trippendale, highlighted page 23, highlight number 1, the law of Bergeret and Trippendale. Highlight A, cell radiosensitivity is affected by. Highlight Roman number 1, mitotic activity in that bullet. Highlight Roman number 2, level of maturity in those 2 bullets. Highlight Roman number 3, degree of specificity in those 2 bullets. Mitotic activity is cell division. The more cell divides, the more sensitive that cell is. Basically is what we say here. Level of maturity, would you look at me? Radiation is rolling off my butt like a duck in some freaking water. I'm so old. But it affects you younger folks at a greater rate than it affects me. But it affects you less than it affects that 8-year-old kid. It affects that 8-year-old kid less than it affects those trimesters. One rule sums it nicely. The more immature, the more sensitive, and it works for everything. And it works for everything. The more immature, the more sensitive, and it works for everything. And finally, degree of specificity. Some things are highly specialized, like muscle and nerve. They are much more resistant. They are much less sensitive. How do you want me to describe that? It's the same thing. Okay, first question. I want to know the single most radiosensitive cell in the body. I better hear lymphocyte out of your mouth. Lymphocyte's your answer. Lymphocyte is the single most radiosensitive cell in the body. The question is a lymphocyte. Okay, now this is going to be one of those questions that everything's going to be mixed up, like the air, fat, muscle, bone. 1, 2, 3, 4. You got muscle, you got stem / IC, you got lymphocyte, you got nerve. Okay, so this is how this question is going to go. They're going to say least in order from least to greatest or greatest to least. That's where you come in. Are they asking about sensitivity to resistancy? Is it resistant? I don't know. That's your problem. But it's going to work like the air, fat, muscle, bone. So I'm just going to throw a question out, and I want you to tell me what order you're going to drag and drop this crap. I want you to list an order. Listen to my question. On that list, from the least sensitive to the greatest. What is the least sensitive on my list? Good. Muscle. 1. Okay. Well, remember, this is the most.
What is it?
More than stem cell?
Huh?
More than stem cell?
Lymphocyte?
Yeah.
Is your single most radiosensitive cell in the body. That is correct.
Okay.
Okay? So, you got literature to prove otherwise? I do, I think. Do you know, or
Do I know?
are you telling me you think I'm wrong?
No.
Okay,
No,
I'm not mad.
Yeah.
I'm just questioning because the answer is lymphocyte.
Okay.
All right, so let me show you a little trick right here. There is a question right here, basically, that they're going to try to trick you. Everyone has heard of a stem cell, right? Okay, but there are 2 different types of stem cells. The other type of stem cell is called an intestinal crypt. CRYPT. It's called an intestinal crypt. So if you don't see the word stem, what they're going to try to do is fool you with the word of intestinal crypt. An intestinal crypt is a form of a stem cell. So you can just plug and play intestinal crypt instead of stem right there. All right, so we have basically 2 and then 3. But that's one way or the other one. Air, fat, muscle, bone, it goes one way or the other way. This is normal, least to greatest, greatest sensitivity, drag and drop in the bucket. You got to figure out which way you got to go with it kind of stuff. Okay? Now, Law Birds Day, Tribando, straight up player. You better not be missing questions about that. Flip, page 24. Page 24, please. Page 24. Highlight C, linear energy transfer, LET. Highlight number 1, 2, 3, please. Number 1, 2, 3. Highlight E, relative biological effectiveness, RBE. Highlight number 1, 2, 3. I want to star by number 2, please. E, number 2, I want to star by. E and number 2. That is a superstar question. It always shows itself. What is the relationship between LET and RBE? It is what? Directly proportional. Number 2 is a straight up superstar. It always shows itself. It is the relationship between LET and RBE. By far the most commonly asked question about LET RBE effects. Okay, so number 3, or basically what is that? Number 3 there, it says X-rays have a low LET. So let me ask this question, please, with that comment right there. We talked about Compton, we talked about the photoelectric effect. Which one dominates when we make exposures? Which one is much more prevalent when we image? Compton, which is scatter or absorption? Scatter. You sure?
Yes.
Yes, you are sure. Good job. So the reason why he's saying that, because remember the chart of quality factors a couple pages back, which we actually did yesterday? We said X-ray has a quality factor of what? Okay, so what we're telling you is this right here. X-rays are known carcinogens. They're cancer causing. Basically, what we're telling you is, okay, I want you to list the 10 most deadly snakes in the world. And coming in at number 10, which is the least deadly of the deadly, is X-ray. You see, the most deadly snake in the world is Alpha, the black mamba. Okay, so what number did we assign to Alpha? 20. X-ray gets the 1, Alpha gets the 20. Remember that? On the chart. Just look back a couple pages. Look on page 21. You see that chart? Quality factor chart? Okay, so those are your numbers. That's right, X-rays have a low LET. You get into potential biological damage when you get into absorption. You see, if I walk outside and forget my sunglasses, I'll block the sun with my hand, but you can't block X-rays. X-rays penetrate at such a great rate, they don't get absorbed at a high rate. That immediately tells you the photoelectric is all about absorption. That immediately verifies my man's comment that Compton dominates. X-rays have a low LET. That means a low rate of transfer, which has to have then a low RBE, a low biological damage effect. That's what that stands for. X-rays basically penetrate so well. They have a low RBE and a low LET and a low RBE. They don't transfer because the relationship is what at all times? Directly proportional between the two. X-rays don't do a lot of damage. Yes, they're a known carcinogen. Yes, they're a poisonous snake. But coming in number 10 is just X-ray. There's 9 more, much more deadly than X-ray. And that's what that says on the chart. You assign quality factors because of the LET and RBE effects. That's what we get off that. Page 24, back on page 24, please. Back on page 24. Highlight F, cell survival and recovery, LD 50 whatever. I've seen this question written numerous ways.
Yeah.
Right here, LD 50 whatever. Okay, still on the same page, LD 50 whatever. I've seen LD 50, I've seen 60, I've seen 30, I've seen 20, I've seen 10. You may see more numbers than that. So 3 people get the question right here and they'll say the term LD 50 30. On girlfriend's exam, they'll say, what does the LD represent? Lethal dose. On your exam, they'll say, what does the 50 represent? To 50% of the population. And on your exam, they'll say, what does a 30 represent? Over a 30-day time period. So they'll give you a term like LD 50 whatever and make you tell what part they ask you about represents. It is a lethal dose. That's the LD. That's what it stands for. It is a lethal dose to 50% of the population over a blank number of days. If the number is 60, well then 60 days. If the number is 10, well it's 10 days. So just regurgitate the number. It's a lethal dose to 50% of the population over a blank number of days. LD 50 whatever. Okay? Still on the same page. I missed one. I missed something on that page. We're still on page 24, please. Still on page 24. I want you to highlight D, the oxygen effect. Go up on the page now. Highlight D, the oxygen effect. Highlight number 1, 2, 3. I'm going to give you a statement that sums it up nicely. Simply put, the more oxygen, the more sensitive, and you will never go wrong in thought. That's going to be a nice summation for you. The more oxygen, the more sensitive. You will never go wrong in thought. The more oxygen, the more sensitive. Page 25. Page 25, please. Near the top of the page, highlight number 3, fractionation versus protraction. Highlight A, fractionation, equal doses with interval separations, protraction, delivered continuously kind of crap. Simply put, it's about a 50-50 chance at best it shows. If it does show, they'll work either or like a definition approach question. Well, that's a good definition of either or kind of crap. Okay? Highlight G, radiolysis. This is a player. Highlight number 1, 2, and 3. Highlight number 7 and highlight number 9. That's 1, 2, 3, 7, and 9. Probably the most common question still is the definition of radiolysis. It is radiation interaction with water. Make sure you flag the definition and study that. It is radiation interaction with water. That defines radiolysis. So we know that X-rays penetrate so very well because you can't block X-rays with your hand like the sun kind of stuff. All right, but another reason that X-rays don't do a lot of biological damage is because the composition of the makeup. Like you studied some kind of stat in biology protection, like the body is made up of 80-something% H2O molecules, 82, 83, I don't even care anymore. It's not my cup of tea. All right, so when X-rays rain down on the body, what happens is basically you produce free radicals. It kind of bounce around like little pinball machines. But not only do X-rays penetrate so very well, but the water keeps the radiation from directly interacting with the DNA strands. So it is a much more indirect interaction because they penetrate so well, but also because the water works as a buffer. Remember the air, fat, muscle, bone question? Now they're starting to include water because they're going to acknowledge its presence. So look at number 7. It says radiolysis is what type of interaction? Indirect. That's right, because the water helps to keep the radiation from directly interacting. So the water works as a buffer kind of in there. X-rays penetrate so very well, and the water also works as a buffer. It's the definition of radiolysis, and that it is an indirect interaction as a rule. Those are 2 most important concepts to concentrate on radiolysis. Flip. All right. I want you to highlight number 1, types of cell death. I want you to highlight A, interphase. I want you to highlight Roman number 1, 2, 3, please. So let's talk about the phases. That's my first question. I want to know in the question, which phase is a cell considered to be the most sensitive? Say it again, girlfriend. Well done. It's the mitotic phase, or mitosis, when it divides. Good job. A cell in a question is considered to be the most sensitive during the process of cell division. That's your answer. Mitosis, the M phase, as people say. Good. Mitosis, cell division. That is when a cell is in its most sensitive state in a question. The mitotic phase. Okay. So, word on the street is they commonly ask us the difference between 2 definitions. Let's make sure we're solid. Mitosis and meiosis, nobody cares how you pronounce crap. It's irrelevant. Mitosis, cell division. That's the definition. That's how you define mitosis is cell. I'm going to tweak the book if you want this. I'm going to give you some definitions just to make sure you're solid. Mitosis is cell division. Meiosis, germ cell division. That's the difference right there. So mitosis is cell division. Meiosis is germ cell division. Sometimes they'll ask me questions within questions. They'll say, what does a germ cell refer to? A germ cell is a sex cell. It is a reproductive cell kind of crap. Mitosis and meiosis. I need you to recognize basically those 2 definitions. Highlight where it says A, mitotic delay, highlights A, mitotic delay, highlight Roman number 1 and Roman number 2. Okay, for starters, My question to you, when you look at Roman number 1 and 2, you see the word delay in 1, you see the number in number 2. My question is mitotic delay, is it a threshold or is it a non-threshold dose response? You think so?
Non-threshold.
You think so? Okay. For starters, delay is a key and a giveaway, but that's not even the most simplistic way. What does threshold mean? It takes a certain amount. So anytime they tack a number onto anything, that always defines a threshold. Numbers define thresholds. Do not forget that. That's the most simplistic and easy way to remember it. Numbers, it takes a certain amount. That's what a number is. It's the quantity of. So numbers define thresholds. I don't care how low the number is, it's still a number, it's still a threshold. Anything below, traditionally we call a RAD, is not going to manifest, which we know we can't work with RADs anymore. So I'm going to do this one more time. I need to make sure everyone's solid. I do not know how you've been taught. I strongly suggest if you're doing film screening processing, you're being taught traditional. But everything is in the SI. Am I making myself clear up here? Okay? Everything is in the SI. There are no traditional components anymore, kind of stuff. All right, so we have a traditional value right here. We have the SI. This is a pizza in New Jersey. This is a pizza in Rome, Italy, kind of stuff. Anywhere outside the States is international kind of stuff. All right, so it says mitotic delay takes place as little as 1 rad, okay? Well, you're not using rad, but I got my own theory. If you're gonna convert this to gray, all we gotta do is steal that number at 0.01, and the answer would be 0.01 gray. But the thing I'm gonna call BS on right now is every time you look in review books, you never see any answers with decimals, do you? Have you been paying attention to that? Because they never give the answers in decimals. So sometimes what they're gonna do is they're gonna basically go pizza to pizza, and sometimes they're gonna go pizza to slice. So if you're a traditional person and they ask you about mitotic delay, I guess the answer could be 0.01 gray. But do you notice how this number is a decimal? I'm calling BS on that. You see, we have 1 rad and we can still multiply times 0.01. Now we can multiply by 1,000. I can simply move it 3 places to the right, or a third way is to simply shortcut it, multiply it by 10. Any way it goes, when we look at the answer are in milligray. You see, the answer is going to be 10 milligray because the number is whole. Do we follow me, please? Because all the answers are always whole numbers. There's never any decimal numbers taking place. So what you're going to hear me say, sometimes they're going to go pizza to pizza, sometimes they're going to go pizza to slice. So if you have a traditional number in your head, you got to see how the answers are being expressed. Is it a full grade? Is it a milligrade? That's going to mean everything. And you have to pay attention to that crap. Because if you don't, you're going to be dead freaking wrong. Yes, ma'am?
So it doesn't matter if it's not a 1 or not, you're always still going to multiply it by 10?
Correct. That's just what the number is for mitotic delay. Everything has its own number. So that's where you got to come in is draw up on your numbers. The thing about radiation protection is a lot of memorization game here.
Well, because even yesterday you were using the 0.01. So we kind of...
Oh, no, okay. So, look, go back to page, right? Look at page 20. I'm just stealing that number to 0.01, right? I'm just stealing off that chart. Okay, so that's fine because that's how you go from rad to gray. Okay? That's like going from a pizza to a pizza. But I can go from a pizza to a slice.
Right.
So that's what okay, let me get my point across. Look, this is a rad to a gray. But what I say is that's not going to be the answer on the exam because you see how you have a decimal right here.
Right.
All the numbers are always whole numbers.
Right.
So my point is sometimes they're going to express the answer in gray, sometimes they're going to express the answer in milligray, and you better be paying attention to how they're expressing it.
Okay.
Does that make any sense?
Mm-hmm.
So when you go from a rad to a gray, you use the 0.01. When you go from a rad to a milligray, you multiply by 10.
Okay.
And that happens every time.
All right.
Okay?
Yep. Thank you.
All right, highlight B, I'm going to prove my point right now. Highlight B, reproductive failure. Highlight Roman numeral 2, reproductive failure, Roman numeral 2. Okay. Now, if I go from a pizza to a slice, have you ever seen numbers like this in review books? If I went from a rad to a milligrade, that would be 1,000 to 10,000 milligrade. Do you see big old fat numbers like that? No, you don't. So what I'm telling you is this answer in my mind is going to be 1 to 10 gray. Do you follow me, please? Okay? Because my first example, I went from a pizza to a slice. This example, I'm going pizza to pizza. Talk to me, New Jersey. Like low, I don't want to come out and say that, but in my mind, that's the way I think about it. The number's not going to be a decimal, but it's not going to be some big stupid fat number out there like 10,000 either, because you never see that either. But I do want to caution you, if you're a traditional thinker, and are you guys not being taught traditional?
We are.
That's fine. So listen, you don't have to worry about anything if you know the SI values. Okay? I know there's one of two answers that it's going to be. It's going to be 1 to 10 grade most likely. I guess it could be 1,000 to 10,000 milligrade, because nothing's traditional anymore. It can be either one of those. I'm thinking it's going to be 1 to 10 gray all day long. So what you said is kind of my thought process, but I'm hesitant to come out and say it like that. It's going to be a whole number, but it's going to be a reasonable whole number. Okay? All right, page 27, please. Page 27. Okay, highlight number 4, somatic effects. All right, I'm on page 27, please. Highlight number 4, somatic effects. Highlight A, highlight B. Highlight the example listed number 1. All right, highlight C, long-term effects. And highlight the example list in A, please. Okay, so simply put, we have somatic. Anytime we have somatic changes, it affects me, it affects you, it affects the individual cell of the body. That defines a somatic change kind of stuff. Cancer is a somatic change in my body. All right, so the first thing I want you to do as you study this is to make sure you know which terms are short-term somatic and which terms are long-term somatics. I need you to make sure you know which term belongs on which list. Keep the list separate as short and long. The second thing is, I'll ask you questions within questions. Take a look at the short-term somatic list. It's going to say basically what is the term redness or reddening of the skin referred to? Erythema. What is loss of hair? What is nosebleed? Some people pronounce the X, some people don't. Epistaxis, epistaxis, nobody cares. Good. Those kind of questions. Erythema, epistaxis, that kind of crap is common. So make sure you know what those terms refer to kind of stuff. So we have short-term somatic. We have long-term, know which one falls on which list. We have questions within questions. And then we clearly differentiate in a question somatic changes versus genetic. Somatic affects the individual. Genetic, offspring, offspring's offspring kind of effect. So we're going to make sure we clearly differentiate between terminology, somatic versus genetic. That's how you handle that. Okay, same page, page 27. I want you to highlight number 5, acute versus chronic effects. Highlight A, acute exposure. Highlight number 1, number 2. Highlight B, chronic. Highlight number 1 and highlight number 3. Number 1 and number 3. Okay. Now, let's do number 3 first. Okay, so we know for sure there's no rads on there. So I'm going to let you take over somebody. I want someone to tell me, if you chose to go from pizza to pizza, what would the answer be? 1 rad gets converted to how many gray? 0.01. Good, 0.01. But if they choose to go from pizza to a slice, what's the answer? There you go, that's how it works, right? So you got to pay attention to their answers and how they're denoting their answers. All right, so the answer is going to be either 0.01 gray or 10 milligray. But everything is going to be in the SI converted version. Nothing's traditional. Okay, so we see the word acute versus chronic. I need you to recognize acute means sudden onset. Chronic is over a long period of time kind of stuff. So which one is more harmful, acute or chronic exposures? Acute, you sure? Okay, so which one's gonna give you a worse hair day, girlfriend? If you get ready to go to the club and you just got your hair did, as we say in Memphis, kind of stuff. If I walk up and squirt you one time with a squirt gun every 15 minutes, or if I walk up and dump a bucket of water all on the head at one time. Easily explained, she had it right anyway. Acute are always more harmful than chronic. Because anytime you pile it on all at once, it does much more damage kind of stuff. As a technologist, what type of exposures do we receive? They are chronic, girlfriend, and we monitor and measure through the dosimeter kind of stuff. So a technologist in his job duties, or hers, his or hers, they get chronic exposures a little bit over a long period of time, over a lifetime. Acute versus chronic. Page 28, please. Page 28. Highlight C, carcinogenesis. Highlight number 1, 2, 3. X-rays or cancer-causing agents kind of stuff. Carcinogenesis. All right. Highlight D, organ and tissue. Highlight number 1I. First question, not in my book. I want to know the single most radiosensitive part of the eye.
Retina?
Not the retina. Lens is your answer. Write it down. And that question, what is the single most radiosensitive part of the eye? The answer is the lens. The answer is the lens. Single most radiosensitive part of the eye. The answer is the lens. All right, here we go. Highlight number 1I. Highlight ABC. And highlight E with a star, please. Highlight E with a star. Highlight number 2, thyroid. And highlight A with a star. Highlight number 3, breast. And highlight A with a star. Highlight number 4, bone marrow. Highlight A, B. Highlight Roman number 1, definition of cytopenia. Top of page 29. Highlight number 5, skin. Highlight A, B, C, D, F with a star. Okay, now. Turn to page D54. D54. This section is page 54. Let's work the page. I'll show you how to answer it. Page D54. You ready, please? Everybody on it? D54. Okay. Highlight number 8, stochastic. I specifically want you to highlight the word probabilistic right there. I also want you to highlight A and specifically highlight the word non-threshold, and I want a star by A. I want a star by A, but specifically the word non-threshold is highlighted. Am I clear about this? Highlight B, C, put a mark by the second example. It's a better one. Highlight number 9, non-stochastic. Specifically highlight the word deterministic in parentheses. I want you to highlight A. I want you to highlight the word threshold in A, and I want a star by A as well. And then I would like you to highlight B, C, and D if you would like to. And then you can put a mark by that example as well. B, C, and D with that example as well, please. Okay, so anytime you see the word stochastic, which is a probabilistic effect, you need to parlay the word non-threshold in your memory. And the same thing when it comes to non-stochastic, which is a threshold dose response. Okay, so what you're going to do now is you're going to flip back to page 29. Keep your page marked on 54. Don't lose it. Keep it marked. Go back to page 29, but keep your hand on 54. So the very last statement, do you see what basically we were talking about threshold, non-threshold kind of crap? Okay, so they can use those terms just fine, but sometimes instead of saying basically threshold, non-threshold, you're going to have to parlay the term stochastic or non-stochastic with that. And you link up the terminology. Did you hear what I just told you, bud? Okay? So you got to basically use your terms interchangeably there. And they're right there for the taking. Write yourself a note on that. So you got to parlay the terminology, because they'll use it either way. So I do want you to study the stars, of course, but I also want you to know that the same question could be addressed as stochastic and non-stochastic effects. And all you're doing is parlaying stochastic to be non-threshold and yada yada. So all you're doing is parlaying terminology. Okay? Write yourself a note. All right. Page 29, please. Back on page 29. Back on page 29, please. Back on page 29. All right, here we go. Page 29, please. Highlight number 6, gonadal. So in that question, the gonads refer to both male and female reproductive regions. Am I correct about that? And the rule of shielding is you shield everyone's gonads of childbearing age or younger as long as it does not interfere. Am I correct about that too? Good, good. Would you please just read with me for a second, please? A female right there says, Roman number 1 says radiation destroys all ova. Roman number 2 and 3 says that's absolutely true, but when you start comparing ova, it says immature are more sensitive, mature are not as sensitive, they're more resistant. Why are you trying to highlight that, study that? I thought we took care of that crap. Did we not say the more immature, the more sensitive? And I already said it works for everything. Quit trying to memorize crap. You work off concepts. Concepts carry the day, not memorization. We've already handled the crap with one statement. It works for everything. All right, highlight B males, highlight Roman number 2, and highlight Roman number 3. Okay, so let me ask the question, New Jersey. If I tell you in my mind the answer is going to be pizza to pizza, what's the new answer going to be? Pizza to pizza. 5 to, so you take the 0.01. You multiply it by 500, and so now the new answer is 5 to 6. But you do use the 0.01, girlfriend. Okay, so the answer, pizza to pizza, says 5 to 6 gray. Okay, now, when you look down there at, what was it, Roman number 3, is that what it was? Okay, it says a dose of 10 rads. I mean, I guess the answer could be 10 times 0.01, which would put you at 0.1 gray, but I think the number is whole. So if I ask you the number goes from a pizza to a slice, what do we think the new answer is going to be? 100 milligray. Nice. That's how you do it. You got to pay attention to how they know the answers, folks. It's 100 milligray in my mind. It's 100 milligray. Same page 29, highlight E, local versus general somatic. Highlight number 1, local, highlight A, highlight B, that's A, B. Flip, page 30. Highlight number 2, general somatic. Top of the page, highlight A, highlight B. I gave you B in both of those if you had any questions. Otherwise, they're going to work it like a definition, be able to recognize the definition, local versus general somatic. The B part is to see if you have any questions as you clear it up. Otherwise, study as a definition. Under number 6, special concerns, highlight A, the 10-day rule. Listen to my question, please. You're not supposed to use the 10-day rule to practice medicine. Nobody said you were. I just want you to interpret, please. I want to know if it is okay or not okay to let radiation rip through that patient on the 4th day after the onset of the menstrual cycle. Yes or no? That's what I want to know. Let me say it again. No. Is it okay or not okay to let radiation rip through that patient on the 4th day after the onset of the menstrual cycle? And the answer is yes, because they're trying to trick you with words. Onset defines the first day of the cycle. That's what that means. So as long as the number is 1 to 10, and it was, then theoretically we let it rip. If I would have said on the 8th day after the onset, you're still good. If I would have said on the 12th day after the onset, no go. I want you to know when they use the word onset, they're meaning that to be the first day of the flow, the cycle. That's what onset means in the question. So theoretically, it was okay to expose. Okay, now, highlight number 7, special concerns for the male patient. Highlight A, sperm and constant reproduction. Okay, so there was an old school book written, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus kind of crap. It talked about the great differences between men and women, and what the book summarized was, ladies, you think we're all dumb in life, which is probably true, right? That's how life goes. There's also a great difference between sperm and eggs. Those of you who can't stand Sex Ed 101, you better leave now because we're about to have it up in here. A sperm, constant reproduction. This is a little bit slang, ladies, excuse me. You're preloaded on the front end. Translation, you're born with all the eggs. You mature. One day, for the first time ever, an egg moves in place. It does not get fertilized. And the body will naturally abort that egg. And I present to you the great menstrual cycle you got to deal with for a while. Congratulations on that, all right? And it happens monthly. And then one day an egg moves in place and it does get fertilized. And when it does, I present baby mama. That's how life works. Shocking facts of life, right? All right, men are from Mars, women are from Venus. You need to know the significant differences between sperm and rejuvenation and females being preloaded. I'm going to ask you who is physically going to hold my patient during the exam. Except I do not want you to tell me who is going to hold. I want you to pull people off one by one until we find out who is left to hold. We're going to kind of do it a little bit opposite. You got that? Don't tell me who is, tell me who's not, one by one. Then we'll find out who's left. All right? So we have ABCD. We have a 61-year-old male tech. We've got a 42-year-old baby mama. Baby mama not pregnant, they would have called her a pregnant female. Baby mama just a mama. Okay? We've got a 21-year-old baby daddy. And we've got a 58-year-old grandmama. Who are you going to walk up to and say, not you, not today? Not the tech. Say it again. The tech, is that what you're saying? Well, you got a problem now, don't you? And the problem is we see it all day, every day clinically. But according to the throne and how they'll grade it, rule number one is a technologist is never allowed to hold during any exam. They made it male and they made his butt the oldest to throw you off. You would be correct. If I would have reworded that question and says who's the only person who's never going to hold, you would have chosen A. A is the only person who is not allowed to hold according to the throne. It's just fairy tale. We see it all day long. Okay? Who are you going to approach next? 21-year-old? I mean, I don't blame you. She's a cougar, right? She's not a... No. You see, B and C are identical. They're both childbearing. So according to the childbearing approach, basically, baby mama gets approached next because she's preloaded and he's in constant rejuvenation. So we approach mother next. Even though she's twice his age, they're both identical, they're both childbearing by rule. So baby mama comes off next. I mean, we knew grandmama was going to hold anyway. Right? Rule number 3, we're looking at non-occupation outside childbearing. If you'll do yourself a favor, will you please do a quick check off of what I just told you? You'll never miss the question again. Rule number 1, 2, and 3. Rule number 1, occupational people never hold. That's rule number 1. Just do a quick check off, please. Rule number 1, occupational people do not hold. Rule number 2, a male holds before the female in childbearing because he's in constant rejuvenation and she is preloaded. Rule number 3, we'll look at non-occupational outside of childbearing as the culprit. Okay, so ABCD. This time, I do want to know who is going to hold. We've got a 60-year-old male radiologist who is a medical doctor, a 21-year-old Somali nurse, a 40-year-old male tech, and a 35-year-old male student tech. Okay, read my list again, please. We've got a 60-year-old male radiologist, medical doctor. We've got a 21-year-old Somali nurse. We've got a 40-year-old male tech, a 35-year-old male student tech. I want to know who is going to physically hold.
Doctor. A.
A? Is that right? Well, what was rule number 1?
No occupational work.
A radiologist. radiologist doesn't work in radiology? Your answer is B. What was your number one? Well, everybody who works in radiology is called an occupational worker. That includes the medical doctor. B is your answer. Yeah, but Derek, what if she works in the cath lab? Well, then she works in radiology, fool. Okay? She's employed in radiology. Understand the concept? Rule number 1, 2, 3. Check it off. You'll never miss the question again.
Non-childbearing.
Non-occupational, no, sorry. Yeah, that's right. Non-occupational outside childbearing. That's who you're looking for to hold. You see, the only person not employed in radiology is the nurse. You see, because we get radiation a little bit every day, all day, they may get it one time every 3 years.
What does the last one say? Tech?
Student tech.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But see how they purposely made her female? She's preloaded and she's by far the youngest. They're just trying to throw you off the trail. She's the answer. Page 31, please. Page 31. All right. Highlight number 8, special concerns for pediatric. Highlight B, children are especially sensitive. Highlight number 1, 2, 3, please. Number 1, 2, 3. Highlight number 9, acute radiation syndromes. Number 9, acute radiation syndromes. Highlight A, hemopoietic. Highlight the first 4, number 1, 2, 3, 4. Number 2, in my mind, it's going to be basically, new answer is going to say 1 to 10 grade. Pizza to pizza. Everybody got the new number? 1 to 10 grade. Pizza to pizza, number 2. Highlight B, gastrointestinal. Highlight number 1, 2, 3, please. Number 1, 2, and 3. The number in number 1 is going to say 10 to 50 grade. Flip. Page 32. Highlight C, central nervous system. Highlight number 1, 2, 3. The number in number 2 is going to say anything north of, anything above 50 grade. Okay, so clearly there is a number. Clearly there is a threshold dose response. Am I correct about this? So here as well, you parlay the word stochastic and non-stochastic. Okay, stochastic is a non-threshold, so every one of these basically have to be what? Non, because all the non-stochastic is a threat. All numbers define thresholds. These are all non-stochastic effects. You gotta parlay your terminology on your acute radiation syndrome. Do you understand what I just told you?
Non-stochastic
Yes.
threshold.
Okay, so remember page 54, right? So anytime you see the word stochastic, all right, there you go, right there. Stochastic is non-threshold, okay? Non-stochastic is a threshold dose. All of your acute radiation syndromes have numbers. They're all threshold dose responses. So they're all non-stochastic effects. That's how it works. Okay? Page 33, please. Page 33. Highlight number 11, genetic impact. Highlight A, genetically significant dose. Highlight number 1. Highlight the example number 2. Number 1 is going to be the most common by far, and that is simply a definitional approach question of genetically significant dose. Flip, recognize the definition. Page 34. Move to the bottom of page 34. Please move to the bottom of page 34. You'll highlight number 3, the effective application. Find the word. It's called the reciprocity law. Specifically highlight the word law of reciprocity there. Okay. So if I tell you that the law of reciprocity states that 30 mass is 30 mass is 30 mass, you'd be thinking, what's that fool talking about? I'm talking about this. 100 MA at 1 second exposure will yield 100 mass, MA times time. 200 MA at a half a second, 400 MA at a quarter of a second. No matter what combination of MA and time, if it equals the same product, it produces the same result. So I just say 30 mass is 30 mass is 30 mass. Okay, now, this is how the question is going to work on the exam. They're going to give you a question with an MA and a separate time. You will multiply those out and your calculator says the answer is 40. And then they're going to list A, B, C, D with a bunch of MAs and times. Also making sure some may be expressed in milliseconds, some may not. You understand what I just said? You got to make sure you always flag the time. We only work in seconds. Nonetheless, guys, all you're going to do is basically match up the 40 from the question to the correct answer. You just have to multiply MA times time on an ABCD. You just match it. 40 is 40. That's how you answer. Law of reciprocity, no matter what combination of MA and time, 30 mass, 30 mass, 30 mass to me. No matter how you get there. Page 35. Highlight number 2, shielding. Highlight A, the rationale for use. All right, this is all about the number. The throne says that a gonadal shield, look at number 2, a gonadal shield should always be used regardless, anytime the gonads are within how many centimeters of the beam.
45.
And I want to say in this program, maybe I'm wrong, seems like the students were saying our book says 10 centimeters. Is this not the right program? It was somewhere in New Jersey, I thought, but I'm just getting old, I can't remember. Doesn't matter. This question is all about the number. I personally have never seen 4 in my life. I've only seen a hard block 5. We're studying the number. Say it again?
5 centimeters.
Centimeters, yes ma'am. So I'm not trying to say, well, gonadal shield should always is used as long as they do not interfere. They're just going to say they should always be used regardless anytime they're within how many centimeters? And the answer is 5. So this is all about studying the number in the question. Okay, 5 centimeters is your answer. Highlight B types. Give me a short line item. Highlight the words flat, contact, and shadow. I know you know the answer. I'm not trying to belittle you, but I'm going to make sure. They're going to tell you in the question you're working with a sterile field. Non-contact, of course. They're going to say what type of shielding device will you use. The only non-contact is shadow is your answer. That's your answer right there. The only non-contact that we offer is a shadow shield. So they're going to tell you on the exam that you are working with a sterile field. The only non-contact device that we have, the answer is shadow. All right. Highlight C placement. Page 35, highlight C placement. Highlight number 1, 2, 3, please. Number 1, 2, and 3. I want to star by number 3, please. I want to star by number 3. Okay, for starters, they're going to tell you on a routine fluoroscopic examination, you can forget this thought. I'm not sure how you guys do it in New Jersey. You guys are probably more strict about it than we are in Memphis. We're a bunch of hacks down there. Routine means nothing. Okay, so the answer is on a routine examination, and you think, well, on a routine BE, you don't shield. Yeah, you do, says the throne. The throne says you shield on every single exam regardless, so you can immediately discredit that you don't shield on a routine. The throne says you shield on every single exam regardless. Because your source in fluoro comes from underneath the table, you're going to place the apron on the tabletop, and then the patient lies on top of it. That's how it works. Yes, ma'am.
Just regarding fluoro real quick, I always get confused. What's the 12 inches and the 15?
Right. Those are the fixed versus mobile fluorostats. We're about to see those very shortly. But the answer is 9 centimeters. So we have to make that adjustment. Okay, but we're about to see that very shortly. It's fixed versus mobile fluoro. Okay? Fixed is, I got notes. Page 41. Flip to page 41. Fixed is 15, mobile is 12. You were correct, girlfriend. We're about to see it. Okay. Number 3. You understand number 3? Okay, good. Flip. Page 36, please. Page 36. Highlight number 4, filtration. Highlight A, the effect on skin. Highlight number 1. And within number 1, I want you to highlight the word specifically called entrance skin exposure. Do you see that in number 1? No, right where we are. Entrance skin exposure. Okay. On the examination, they're going to abbreviate that. They're going to put that in caps locks. They're going to call that the ESE effect. That's what that stands for. ESE is called entrance skin exposure. It is the ESE effect. Okay. Now remember, they're going to try to parlay stuff. Filtration hardens the beam. Filtration removes soft X-rays. Filtration reduces the ESE kind of stuff. Remember, basically, I just found out I was working with a student. They said, okay, so what does filtration do? Is it hard X-rays? No. It removes soft X-rays and longer wavelength beams. Remember that? Okay, so you got to parlay that kind of stuff. That's what it does. All right, good. All right, so my question to you is, you get into absorption, which leads to potential biological damage as a concept. So where do you have more absorption? Is it the entrance part of the exposure, or is it the exit?
Entrance.
That's why it's called the ESE, entrance skin exposure. Some things are more sensitive than other things, like we have cataracts, like we have thyroid, we have breast, we have gonads. A question on the exam is going to say, how do you reduce the ESE to the vitally sensitive organs? Maybe scoliosis series is your answer. Maybe put their butt in a PA projection. All you got to remember when they talk about the sensitivity to the ESE, turn the back to the beam is your answer. Put them in a PA projection kind of crap. Just turn it away. That reduces the ESE effect to the vitally sensitive organs. Let's put them in a PA projection. Turn their back to the beam is what we're talking about. How do you reduce the ESE to vitally sensitive organs kind of crap? All right. Highlight B, the effect on average beam energy right there. Highlight number 1, highlight number 2, please. Number 1, number 2. Okay, so we know that filtration hardens the beam, it bores some more kind of crap. Okay, that chart in the middle of page 36 is a straight up superstar. Tubes that operate 0 to 50, 50 to 70, 70 above must have a minimum of 0.5, 1.5, and 2.5 millimeters of aluminum equivalency. That chart is a straight up player. They're going to try to fool you with some fancy questions about mammo, but they're very easy. So what kind of KB do we use in mammography? Like 25 to 30-ish? Am I pretty close? Probably so. So let me ask you a question. What is the minimum amount of filtration used in mammography? Does it not fall in the 0 to 50 range? Well, then your answer is 0.5, because it simply falls in that range. So it's not, it seems like a harder question than it really is. It's just 0 to 50. That's the minimum filtration. One more question, jot down for me, please. We talk about the target surface. It's a tungsten target with rhenium, but they commonly ask, what is the material used in mammography for my target? Say it again? Yeah, good. Molybdenum, molybdenum. Molybdenum is your answer. Good job. Your answer is molybdenum for mammography. Good. Okay. Now, the only other trick they're going to try to pull on your butt is you read a question, you know the answer should be 70 kVp and above. So we got A, B, C, D. This one says basically 70. This one says 2.5 millimeters of aluminum equivalency, and this one says 2.5 millimeters of PV/E. Just make sure when they try to throw a couple 2.5s to throw you off, just make sure we know it's aluminum, not lead. So a couple 2.5s, we know the answer should be 2.5, 70 and above. Now we're not sure what it's always aluminum equivalency. So that's the only other thing they'll do, give you a couple 2.5s to wade through. Page 37, please. Okay, where it says number 5, patient considerations. Would you just please read with me for a second, please? Number 1 says, PA projections are preferred because you reduce the ESE exposure to the lenses of the eye. Number 3 and 4 basically says every time you do obliques to the cervical spine, you should put them in the PA oblique projection, put their back to the beam. Now let me be clear, guys. When you're playing tech out there, you do those exams like you're comfortable with those exams. This is just a bunch of fairy tale BS in the world. Okay? You do the crap like you know how to do the crap well, so you won't get yelled at and your image sucks. We're just answering questions on paper for the throne. Do you understand me? How do you reduce the SE? Put their back to the beam. Move on in real life. This is just fairy tale, okay? All right. Highlight C, patient communication in that page. And the first line of number 1, find it, motion. Let's play the game. There are 2 types of motion, voluntary and involuntary. If you best, I'm on page 30:7? If you best want to control voluntary motion, you do that through proper communication, clear, concise instruction. That is how you best control voluntary. Is proper communication, clear, concise instruction is voluntary. Involuntary, shortest possible exposure time is your answer. Voluntary is through communication. Involuntary, shortest possible exposure time. That's how you handle both. Flip. All right. Highlight E, pediatric dose reduction. Highlight number 1, number 2. Highlight G, Alera. And highlight number 1. Know the acronym. Highlight number 7, image receptors. Highlight A. Highlight B. Highlight number 8, grids. Highlight A. Highlight B. I want to start by 7A and I want to start by 8A. I so need you to know how fast speed image receptors and how grids affect patient dose. I need you to know A on both 7 and 8. I want to start by both of those. You need to make sure you pay attention to patient dose effect kind of crap. Page 39, please. I want you to highlight G, air gap technique. I want you to highlight basically in 1, 2, 3, everyone solid on the air gap. The intent is just like a grid. Grid uses lead strips, air gap uses distances, increase SID and OID kind of crap. You hope to allow less scattered reach with the U sub kind of stuff. Highlight number 9, fluoroscopy. Highlight A, pulsed. Highlight number 1, 2, and 3. I want to start by number 2 and how the use of pulse decreases patient dose, and number 2 is your power play to study. Okay. Now, this is not the same thing, and I'm not trying to tell your butt that it is. I'm terrible at explaining this, so I'm just going to use the slangiest term as I can. When you are in fluoro and you got the pedal down, the word is called intermittent fluoro. Are you familiar with the term? I don't know how else to say this. Just for a split second, let off the gas. Does that make any sense? Nothing's being scanned. It's just to physically release the pressure from the dead man, because if the beam stays hot the entire time, exponentially those compounds. If you let off the gas for a second, it cuts it. It's called intermittent fluoro. It's not the same thing as pulsed. Pulse, basically, the beam is turned off while anatomy is being. That's not it. Intermittent is let off the freaking gas. Does that make any sense? It's a physical move by the radiologist. Let off the gas. Highlight B, exposure factors, and highlight number 1. Okay, guys. These books will mess you up sometimes. You're going to read the back of the book. It says, okay, when you have higher KVs, the beam becomes more efficient at producing X-rays. That means that as KVP increases, you move more toward 1 full percent. And now more X-rays get produced, more X-rays exit the tube, patient dose increases. I can't argue anything I just told you, but all right. But I'll tell you this, sometimes the captain has to go down with the ship. And so this is what I'm saying. They're going to ask you, how do you reduce the rate of exposure? Commonly, they ask it to a pediatric patient. So what do? We shield, we collimate, we use immobilization devices such as pigostats. Okay, you're going to go down with the ship no matter what that book says. High KV and low mass is universally accepted as less patient dose. And you're going to go down fighting for that answer, no matter what that book says. Do you understand me? You will die with that answer in your head. High KV and low mass is universally accepted as less patient dose. And you're not coming off that one. You're going down the ship. Highlight D, positioning, and highlight number 1. Bottom of the page, D and number 1, flip. Page 40. Okay, highlight E, fluoroscopy time. Highlight number 2. You know, something interesting happened to me just the other day. I was walking down the street, and a little bird dropped a note on my shoulder, and they said, you know what? The answer is going to be 300 seconds. Now think about that for a second. 300 seconds, 5 minutes times 60 seconds 300 seconds. That's your answer. Now, what in the world they need to do stupid stuff like that? I have no clue. Your answer is 300 seconds. Okay, so I was helping a young lady just the other day in Memphis. She didn't pass. And she basically said, in fluoro, what device is used, which one of the following will be used in fluoroscopy to reduce the rate of exposure to the technologist? And she said she answered the 5-minute audible timer. No, that does nothing to help the tech. That only helps the patient. Something about time distance shielding has to be your answer to help you. You understand what I just told your bud? The 5-minute audible timer is a signal for the patient exposure, not for the tech. It doesn't. She said she chose 5-minute audible timer. It doesn't do crap to help your butt. Like the protective curtain, like the Bucky slide, like get your butt away as far as you can. That helps you. The 5-minute timer has no help on your butt. It's doing nothing for you. Okay? 300 seconds is your answer. Page 41. Okay, girlfriend. Parlay page 41. Let's highlight in minimum source to skin distance. Highlight number 1. Highlight that 12 and 15 number. Okay. So you can still use the 12 and 15, no problems. The problem is everything's in centimeters. So all you have to do is whip out that 2.5 number. And when you do, the new answer is going to be 30 and 38 centimeters respectively. So all I did was multiply 12 times 2.5 and 15 times 2.5. So the questions are legit, but everything gets expressed in centimeters these days. The answer is 30 and 38 centimeters respectively. I just whipped out the 2.5 effect.
30 for the 12 inches, right?
Correct. Okay, bottom of the page, please, bottom of the page. Highlight B, mobile radiographic unit. Highlight number 1, the exposure cord. Okay, I will tell you this. Ultimately, I would have said there's 4 answers. I would have said 6 feet. Yep. I would have said 72 inches. Yep. But they don't appear to be using that anymore. You got 2 answers you're going to look for. These are both correct. The answer is going to be 180 centimeters. The answer is going to be 2 meters. Either one of those are going to be what you're looking for. The length of the exposure cord on a portable. Either one of those, 180 centimeters or 2 meters is what you're looking for, because nothing appears to be traditional by distances anymore.
Why'd they do that?
Because they think they have a more universal system. Like, we're the only people in the world that uses inches. Everybody uses the metric system besides us. So I guess we're gonna be next in line now, aren't we? It's a hard deal for an old man like me. I don't know what you guys deal with, but I only think traditionally. So that's why I just know how to convert it. I'm not gonna change a whole bunch of numbers right now. It's just not gonna work. I'll just convert it in my head and be done. Page 42. Highlight on page 42, please. Highlight number 12, special considerations. Highlight A, pediatric patients. Highlight number 1, 2, and 3, please. Highlight number 13, ethical. Highlight A, highlight B. Page 43. Middle of page 43, highlight C, the patient as a source. I mean, that's the question, and that's the answer. Patient's my largest basic source of scatter radiation kind of crap. Highlight D, natural sources of radiation. Highlight the word in number 1 of radon only. Highlight E, artificial. Highlight number 1, number 2. So if I ask you what's your largest source of natural exposure, the answer is going to be radon gas. If I ask you a largest source of artificial, you're not going to say, is it CT, is it mammo? It is everything that uses radiation. The answer is going to be medical imaging, medical x-ray. Everything gets lumped. So your largest source of natural is radon. Your largest source of artificial is medical imaging, medical x-ray. Everything gets lumped as the answer. Flip. If I find out anyone misses page 44, the Cardinal Rules of Protection, I will personally fly back to New Jersey and beat you with a stick. Time, find them. Time, distance, and shielding. Do not let me find out you missed that crap. Time, distance, and shielding. Okay. Also, under B, distance, I want you to highlight number 1. They can say of the cardinal rules. Don't have to say jack crap about that. Simply put, distance is always your most effective means of. Page 45. I think they're going to basically say what is what going to be. So my example, is that what you're saying? Just go to your notes I gave you. Instead of saying 36 inches, going to say, or instead of 40 inches, going to say 100 centimeters. No worries. You'll see it. They'll okay. It's not a worry. You're worried about that, girlfriend. Don't worry about it. I'll worry for you. Okay.
Is it 4 to 8 though now?
Say it again. Nah, I know what the books say. The books are saying 48. I don't think they're going to ask you what is the standard SID, because if you have conflicting stuff, that's kind of unfair. So they'll give it to you. Does that make any sense? They're not going to say, what is the standard SID performed on a hand x-ray? Is it 40? Is it 48?
So like how far we should be standing from the X-ray source?
Okay. That's not. Okay, so you say, so talk to me what you're telling me. How far should you be standing from the x-ray source? You're telling me there's a set distance.
We've always been told 6 feet, but this is 4 to 8.
Okay, no. That's not what we're saying. What you're telling me is at 6 feet, you are not able to detect ionizing radiation through the dosimeter. That's why the length of exposure code on the portable is 6 feet long, because anything 6 feet or beyond, it is non-detectable. I don't know what we're looking at on my book. I think what we're telling you on the book basically is that, if distance gets doubled or cut in half, things going down by a factor of 4 one way or the other one, ultimately. Don't deal with that example. How about that? Cross the example off. I don't want you to get confused. There's nothing that's confusing here. Don't worry about that example. I've already given you your example of if distance gets doubled or cut in half. We've already handled this in the seminar. Got that? So your 6 feet number is anything outside of 6 feet is non-detectable. That's why the 6 feet's in your head. All right. Page 45, please. Page 45. I want you to highlight under the bold word of half value layer. I want you to highlight number 2. Find it. It is NCRP report number 102. Do you see that, please? Okay, here we go. They are crazy as they can freaking be on the throne. They will ask you what reports represent. The length of the exposure according to portable. The thickness of the lead apron. That's all equipment standards. That's a summation. 102 defines equipment standards. That's what 102 represents. They'll ask you what reports stand for, what they represent kind of crap. 102 defines equipment standards. Okay, now go straight down A through G, please. All right. So there is confusion about the lead apron. I am going to unconfuse the apron. Listen to me closely, please. Listen to me. The apron hanging from the portable, at least in Memphis, the one that should be. That one, that apron is allowed to drop down to as low as 0.25. But the apron in the department that's hanging on the wall, that can't drop down below 0.5. So where they come from means something. But they tend not to say that. They basically tend to not tell me where it comes from, and they just throw out generic terms. They say minimum and they say recommended. So when we talk about the lead apron, the minimum thickness is 0.25. Did you hear what I just told you, bud? Minimum on the lead apron, the minimum thickness is 0.25. And when you see the word recommended, the answer is going to be 0.5. That's why we're confused right there. Yes, ma'am?
So they won't say mobile, they'll just say minimum?
Well, if they say mobile, you know how to answer it. Okay, so I got no problem there. So now that's why we addressed it like we did. Because you know how to answer the question when they say mobile, right? That's right.
And then recommended was 0.05.
No, 0.5.
0.5.
0.5. I want to say it again, please. Listen up. So, minimum is 0.25. If there's no defined where it comes from. When they use the word minimum, the answer is 0.25. When they use the word recommended, the answer is 0.5. Okay, now listen to me. They'll also use words such as must and should. It must at a minimum. It should at a recommendation. So must belongs with minimum. Should belongs with recommended. That's how you work it right there. But girlfriend brought up a valid point. If they say mobile, that's cool. We know the answer. It's 0.25. So anytime you see the apron, you're confused, just look for those key words, minimum, recommended, or where it comes from. Yes, ma'am?
And like seeing PB means lead.
Absolutely. PB is always lead. Those are always lead line shields. You are correct, girlfriend. Those are always lead line. Okay, now, I can't even believe I'm wasting my freaking time with you right now. Not you, girlfriend. And that is this. I can't even believe they're going to ask this crap anymore. Okay, so you have C barriers. You see C barriers. Highlight number 1, primary protective barrier. Highlight A, highlight B. Okay, so you got A and B, right? Okay, so you're going to set technique of the operating console. It's how's the control booth? That's my question. Is the control booth, is it primary or is it secondary? Why is it secondary? So the rule is only what is perpendicular to, but the throne says you're always behind the wall. We're not talking about fluoro. You're always behind the wall. You're not holding. So if you're always behind the wall, second rule is you don't ever point the beam when you're in it at the booth. Oh, there you go. It's secondary. That's why you explained it to me. You're exactly right. Well done. Okay, now, this I can't believe I'm wasting my time. Everybody knows the primary and the secondary barrier has a 16th and a 32nd inch thick. Am I correct about that? Are you surely they're not going to convert that crap, are they? Are you kidding me? I don't know why I'm wasting my time on this. I'm not going to do this, but one time and one time only. There's something called a numerator and a denominator, and like I know what that means anymore. All I know is if you will divide the big number into the small, you will get some type of decimal number, and then you'll whip out the 2.5 to finish it. All you got to do. So the first thing you want to do is convert your fraction to a decimal, and you whip out the 2.5. You get a decimal by dividing big and small. Call it what you want, because I don't know what a numerator and a denominator even is. I can't believe I wasted my time. Okay? All right, page 45, same page. All right, highlight Roman number 3 and highlight Roman number 4. Roman number 3 and Roman number 4. It is so not the number that I want you to concentrate on. You see the word controlled, you see the word uncontrolled. I need you to concentrate on the physical area, waiting room, hallway, that kind of crap. Don't concentrate on the number, concentrate on the physical area. Is it controlled? Is it uncontrolled in the question? It's a physical area question. Page 46. Page 46, please. Page 46. I want you to highlight number 2, secondary protective. I want you to highlight B as in boy. That's B as in boy, please. On page 46, right? Number 2, highlight B as in boy. Page 47, please. Page 47. In the middle of page 47, find it. It's F. The fluoroscopy exposure switch is called the dead man question. You got to apply pressure. Page 48. Page 48, please. Page 48. On page 48, at the bottom of the page, I want you to highlight number 2, content. I want you to highlight C where it says the letter M. I need you to know in a dosimetry report, M stands for minimal. That means below the level of detection. That means you rolled your butt into radiology that first day with big eyes and clean uniforms and you stood back and held the wall up that day. Not detectable. That's what M means, below the level of detection. All right. I also want you to know, which is not in my book, a dosimeter in no way protects you from radiation. It's simply a monitor that measures and reads. It is not a personnel protection device in the question. I also need you to know that by law, you are to be made aware of your exposure records, and I don't even care if it happens or not. Don't you see those monthly, bi-monthly, quarterly kind of crap? The numbers, that's what I'm talking about. By law, you are to be made aware of your exposure records. Okay? If you're not seeing them, they got a checks and balances system. You're good, or they would have talked to you already. All right? Page 49, please. Highlight number 3, length of record keeping. Highlights A. Highlight number 4, retrieval. Highlights A, B. All right, I'll show you how to work the dosimeters. Highlight number 1, film badge. Highlights A, B, and D. Highlight number 2, TLD. I want you to highlight A with a star. A is a superstar. The lithium fluoride always shows itself. Highlight B, highlight C, highlight H. B, C, and H. Flip, page 50. Highlight number 3, pocket dosimeter. Highlight A, B, C, and highlight E. Couple things here. You see where it talks about number 3, C is prone to inaccurate readings. They're going to call that a false positive. They're going to say, which of the following dosimeters gives me the most false positives? And the answer is the pocket. False positive is simply an inaccurate reading. They're going to call it a false positive. And then one more question that's not there is going to say, which of the following dosimeters can you get immediate readings? The answer is the pocket. Pockets gives you immediates. All right, highlight number 4, OSL. Highlight A, B, and C. Probably put a star by 4A. The aluminum oxide is a player, so I want to start by 4A. And then listen to me. I guess I do a crappy job explaining this, but people want to change this. Okay, I want you to create a statement called J. We left something off. Create a statement called J. Okay, now, don't do anything to this statement. Just go up and look at number 3, pocket. And you see E, it says does not offer a permanent record. Don't touch that statement. I want you to write that exact line with one change. Just leave out the word not. I want you to say it does offer a permanent record. So write that statement on J. Just leave out the word not. Okay, so in a very simplistic approach, they've got a hang up that says, do you offer a permanent archival record or not? The film badge you can, the OSL you can as well, but the 2 in the middle you cannot. 2 you can, 2 you cannot. The very last statement on every single one of these tells me that. They got a hang up as archival record available kind of crap. 2 you can, 2 you can. That's what the last statement, that's what you just created. Now, let me show you how you're going to work this question right here. All right, one of the main things I'm going to ask you now is how do you physically get the reading? Take a look at the OSL. It says a laser light reads the sensing material kind of crap. All right? Do you heat up the lithium fluoro chip? The first 2 to 3 initial statements tell you how you physically get the reading from the dosimeter. Pay attention to how you get the reading. Do you heat the chip up? Does a laser light scan kind of crap? That's what we're talking about here. How you get the reading. It's the initial statements. Page 51. I want you to highlight number 5, proper use. Okay? I want you to highlight B as in boy, the dosimeter. Drop down below D as in dog and highlight number 2. Here we go. The proper place where the dosimeter never changes. Always at the level of the collar. The Bambino badge, the fetal monitor, is always at waist level. Those will never be mixed up. Badge 1, badge 2, they're not to be interchanged. Collar, waist. You put the apron on, nothing changes. Collar outside, Bambino, below or beneath. It always stays at the same place, but one's outside the apron, one is below or beneath the apron kind of crap. Keep up, they'll ask either or. Flip. Near the bottom of page 52, find it. It says NCRP report number 116. Find it, please. All right, so I want you to know that 116 is exactly what's on the top of page 53. You don't have to do this, but if you want to write NCRP report number 116 on the top of page 53, you're more than welcome to, because that's what that is. That's the one you've had quizzes over and crap like that. Yes, sir.
What is that again?
You see 52, you see NCRP report number 116 on page 52, about 2/3 of the way down. Number 116, right? So you want to write those numbers on top of page 53, you can, because that's what that is. At the very top of page, this is NCRP report number 116 at the top of the page. You got that? That's what that is. Okay, here we go. I want you to highlight number 2. Okay, first of all, now guys, they change things about every 3 or 4 years. This change didn't happen this round. This change happened the previous round. Your only acknowledgement should be the number in parentheses, the millisecret, FYI. Okay, this is the second year this crap's been, second round. That's about 5, 6, 7 years ago. Everything's in parentheses. You got that? Okay, here we go. Highlight number 2, occupational exposure. Highlight A, B, C, D. I want a star by A and I want a star by D. Pretest question number 28. Hey, I'm 49. I don't give a freak how old you are. Annual versus cumulative is your key. You're looking for key words. Annual versus cumulative. If it is annual, then the answer is 50. If it is cumulative, then it is 10 times age. D gets a star too. Highlight number 3, public exposure. Highlights A, highlight B. Highlight number 4, embryonic. Highlights A with a star. They will absolutely ask monthly. They will absolutely ask entire gestation. We've got a typo. Listen to me. We've got to clean the typo up. All right, do you see where it says embryonic and fetal, where it says A, 0.5 rem? That's irrelevant. What's wrong is it should say 5, not 50 in parentheses. Where it says 50 millisievert, it should say 5. Everybody see what I'm talking about, please? Yep, your neighbor. You got that? Okay. So you're on break. You're prepped. Good luck. All right, so let's do quarter after. Is that right? 15 after.